Okay. Well, that was a nice long day. I want to play some Football Manager. What save shall I do? No, that doesn't look fun. Nope. No. Why did I even think that was a good idea? Zealand! Help me pick a save! Say no more. Before we go any further, you might notice something fancy and new. It's made its debut on the stream already, but we have a new camera. You get me in more high definition, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it does continue to increase the production quality of the channel and just how good everything looks and feels, and all of that is due to the support here and on Twitch. So I'm very thankful for that, and I will continue to reinvest the money to making this stuff even better. Now we got to learn how to pick saves. Not really learn, but break down my system for helping you pick your save, which I've been product testing on Twitch really for the last month or two. I do stream on Twitch 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday or Sunday. Really just depends on which way the wind is blowing on that one. The link is down in the description. Give it a follow, get a notification when I go live. I also have a Twitter, which I keep forgetting to promote, but I finally remembered this time. I might not know how to use it, but you can follow and just do Twitter things. It's fun. There's a lot of links in the description. They're all useful. Check them out. In this system, to help you be able to pick your save, it's a compilation of questions that are meant to get at the fact that you want to play Football Manager, but you can't quite access your subconscious and what type of Football Manager you want to play. So these questions are designed to direct you in a certain direction, for lack of a better word. And all you have to do is just kind of wander along and answer the questions, and then all of a sudden you'll end up at the end of the road and have a much better idea of what way you want to play Football Manager, and even a few ideas for which clubs to manage if you get dropped off at a certain point. Since I just lack basic creativity, I've gone ahead and named this whole process of picking a save the system, and it is entirely made up of questions and not that many of them, and we are about to get into those. But for the questions, we will have to go to my good friend Morgan Zealand. Question number 1. Would you rather fight for promotion or fight for a league title? The first time I asked this question, I thought, oh, that's too common sense. That's got to be the first thing you think of every time you're starting a save. But then I realized, myself included, that you actually don't sit there and ask yourself this question. And once you do, it is an excellent beginning to this process. You already have a couple of teams in mind, and you go, oh shoot, I really do want to fight my way up from the bottom. I want to fight for promotion. I want to climb a significant ladder. Then you can go off and go that direction. And if you want to be competing for league titles and be on a relatively strong team domestically, then you can go off and go that direction. Make sure you keep in mind, though, that the term relative is in there. I'll give you a few seconds to go to dictionary.com for the term relative. All right, because when I'm talking about someone that is relatively good domestically, a team like the New Saints in Wales is relatively good domestically. But if they were to play an actual team anywhere, they'd get smacked. So this question, you don't want to answer it as whether you want to play as a great team in a top 5 league or not, whether you want to play as a team that is very strong domestically or a team that is not very strong domestically. And I promise we're going to get in and parse more whether you want to be a major team in a top 5 league or not, and you haven't quite decided yet. We're going to do that with the other questions, but for now, this is just whether you want to be a more dominant force or whether you want to have to climb up and try and compete with those dominant forces. Also, important caveat incoming. Do not assume that it makes you a better player and that you are inherently cooler and have more clout because you start in the 25th flight of Romania that you loaded in from some database and fight your way all the way up. If you're not having fun, this is a video game. We play it for fun. Don't do it. Answer this question honestly, and it will treat you a lot better than saying, well, anybody that picks to play as a good team relatively domestically already, well, they're just a pansy and they're soft and they suck. No, that's not true. They just have a little more common sense maybe than you do. But we've all learned that some people love pain, and this is just another way for them to access it. It's not even that painful. You're just playing in a different type of environment where you're trying not to lose more than trying to win. Moving on. Morgan Zealand, can we please just get to number 2? What do you rather? Play with a team you know or a team you don't? This question could also apply to not just Football Manager, but YouTube's. Would you rather stay with any YouTube that you're familiar with, like this one that you're watching right now, and then watch some more content like that, or have to go back to the search bar to find something similar? Anyways, you can hit the subscribe button, and then you don't have to worry about it. I'm always in your subscription feed. And if you want to like the video, you're enjoying it, I just appreciate that, and it helps the video out and lets more people see it. Algorithms, baby. But refocusing on the actual meaning of the question, would you rather play with a team that you know or a team that you don't? This is where we start to get in with the big clubs, because I'm going to count those as teams that you know. It's obviously all the teams that are in your immediate community, that are in your league, that you follow perhaps domestically or maybe in a neighboring country or somewhat, and all the teams that you are inherently familiar with outside of the game. It also includes teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, the massive clubs that everybody, that even if you live under a rock, you've heard of them. They are counted as, would you want to play as a team that you know? This creates the flip side of the question being, if it's a team that you don't know, this is not a major team in a top 5 league. These are the teams that are going to be completely unknown to you until you boot up Football Manager for the first time, or at least largely unknown, like maybe a bad team in one of the top 5 leagues, in Ligue 1 in particular, that you've just never really heard of them before. You don't really have any idea exactly who's on the team, that kind of situation. What's your mental adaptability at this point? To use a Football Manager attribute, what's your mental adaptability to going to play with a team you've never heard of? Is that something that's intriguing or something that's not? And as with the first question, I found myself answering this question both ways, and that's perfectly fine. I'm just going to give you a warning that if you answer that you do not want to play with a team that you know, I'm going to try and send you to Indonesia. You know, I did a lot of takes of this, and I don't like any of them, so we're just going to move on and pretend that was a good evil laugh. Before you give me crap for that, it's surprisingly hard. There's one extra question that you do need to know. If you're going to play as a team you don't know, then you need to decide, or answer this question, whether you want to play in the UEFA Champions League universe. I typically find myself saying yes to this, even though I'm obviously someone that was born, raised, and still lives outside of the Champions League universe. Whether you want to be a team you know or not, whether you want to be a team competing domestically for top titles or competing for promotion or against relegation domestically, do you want to be in the Champions League universe so that eventually you can attempt to ascend in that universe? Do you want to be in Europe? Yes or no? That's like question 2B. And that brings us to question number 3, which I've dubbed the pain layer. How tough do you want registration rules to be? Pain layer, or question 3, is trying to zero in how much of a challenge you want to encounter when it comes to building your team. Whether you're trying to win the league, whether you're a team you know, whether you're a team you don't, this 3rd level question will apply to no matter what answer you give to the first 2. And we're going to make it something of a scale. And on one side of the scale, you have China, where the rules suck. And then on the other side of the scale, you have countries like Germany or Croatia, where they're really lenient and easy to get around. They're also easy to understand. I feel like that's nice and important too. They're very easy to understand in those leagues, where in China you have rules like you gotta have a Chinese goalkeeper. And you're just like, why? I mean, I understand why, but on a deeper level, why? When you look at it, you get to make the decision where in that scale, if you're going to start with a particular team, do you want to be. I, in my Twitch save, am in Belarus, which is somewhere in the middle of that scale. It's 5 foreign players allowed in the playing 11 in the domestic league, but it only takes 3 years to become a Belarusian citizen. So if you purchase ahead and you're smart with the way you build your youth teams and that sort of thing, you really don't have to worry about the foreign registration for the league that much. The important word of warning here is that if you are somebody that loves Wonder Kids, and I know we all love Wonder Kids, but somebody whose game is defined by how well they're able to sign the best young players or very good young players from all over the world and bring them together and create their team, you are going to want lax registration rules all the time, or you are simply not going to have a whole lot of fun. Just something to look out for. Having registration rules that are too difficult in that situation can just be like a tease, because you find another Brazilian, but you already met your quota for Brazilians, and they're sitting over here, and he's not wearing pink on Friday, so he can't sit with them and he can't join your team. We have now reached the separation point. And I call this the separation point in the, what I call it? The system, right. In the system, this is the point where I can no longer ask uniform questions for every situation. If you have decided that on the answer to all three of these, you want to play as a team that's fighting for promotion, you want to play as a team that you do not know, and you don't really care about the registration problems, or maybe you research different leagues and you figure out if you want to have the registration or not, whatever, you do journeyman, right? You do a journeyman save, you start with no coaching badges and just drop yourself into the bucket, see where you land, and work your way up from there, because you are full of optimism. If you think of this system as a slide, everybody gets on one slide and then it slowly breaks off, and we have 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 branches at this point. This is the first exiting point for people. They can start actually launching off of the slide into a couple of different save ideas. If you don't answer the questions in a journeyman way, you have been launched off the slide in a direction where you have a good idea of what type of team you're going to want to manage. And I'm going to give you some examples. I've got a table for this here. So if you want easy registration, a team that you don't know but is in Europe that is competing for titles, well, you've just served up a team like Dynamo Zagreb in Croatia, Legia Warsaw in Poland. Obviously, if you're from those countries, that doesn't make any sense because you know those teams. But if you're not, which is the majority of you, then those are the types of teams you can take over that can immediately compete domestically in Europe, have a shot at that Champions League, thusly, at some point. But you also don't have to deal with the type of difficult registration rules or more difficult registration rules that I have in Belarus, or you encounter with a team like Ferencváros in Hungary, who I do love to recommend, by the way. Ooh, Leipzig. No. Wrong Red Bull. Salzburg. That's another good idea that just came to mind with those answers. If you took a different path down the slide of choosing a save, and you want to fight for promotion in a league that you know, also staying in Europe, and registration, well, it's in a league you know, so it's something that you're very familiar with. There are many of Fallen Giant saves available in a bunch of different countries. Germany, you've got Hamburg, you've got Kaiserslautern. Apologies for the terrible pronunciation. England has Nottingham Forest, Leeds, even Portsmouth down there somewhere. France has Monaco. Spain has Bilbao. If you want to play outside of Europe, go to South America. There are a lot of different good countries. There are 2 different competitive international tournaments, and you'll get a completely different flavor that will be a lot of fun. And that is the last point where I can leave you before you come up with an extra question or two to ask yourself to completely narrow down what team you want to manage. I can only go so far until I know your answers to the questions, right? So you can leave the answers in the comments, and I'll try and get to you with team recommendations and that sort of thing. But this is designed to push you in the right direction and give you an idea of what type of save you want to play. Because if you're watching this video, you already want to play Football Manager. I'm just trying to help you grease the skis. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you on Twitch and Twitter. I hope this helped. Check this out. We got Zoom, baby! Woo!